Hi, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Erica. Thank you so much for clicking on my video. I would love to have you subscribe, like, comment, and if you're returning, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. So today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys my favorite neutral eyeshadow palettes in my collection. A couple videos back, I showed you guys my favorite grungy palettes in my collection, and my really dear friend and subscriber, Michelle, she and I were chatting in the comment section of that video, and she said, you know, I just really love my neutrals. And I said, well, how about I show you my favorite neutral palettes in my collection? And she said, yes, I would love to see that. So this video is dedicated to Michelle, who I just love so, so much. Now, what is a neutral eyeshadow palette? The majority of you that love makeup and have been using makeup for any real length of time, I'm sure you know what a neutral palette is, but it was kind of interesting. My husband asked me a couple days ago, he said, when are you going to film again and what are you going to film? And I told him I was going to be showing you guys my favorite neutral eyeshadow palettes, and he said, what's a neutral eyeshadow palette? And I thought, you know, my definition of neutral might be different than the next person's definition of neutral. Now, a neutral eyeshadow palette to me is basically the exact opposite of a rainbow palette. So we're looking at, like, you know, less brighter colors, maybe less vibrant. But you know, I do have some neutral palettes that have very vibrant, beautiful shimmers in them. But they're not bright purple, bright blue, bright green, bright red. You know, you get the idea. I'm talking about like earthier tones, browns, khakis, tans, creams, champagnes. You can have some grays in there, some taupes, a black in a neutral palette, and then just really nice, soft, beautiful shimmer colors. And I know that a lot of people think that neutral eyeshadow palettes are very boring. Wake up. But I don't think they are. Now, I love my colorful palettes. I do. And when I first started in makeup about 4 years ago, all I would buy and all I would ever create eye looks with were neutral palettes because I was pretty scared of colors. And as I got used to doing my makeup and got maybe a little bit better at applying my eye looks, I really fell in love with colorful palettes. So I will never give up my colorful palettes. I love them. But neutral eyeshadow palettes are beautiful in their own right. I really do believe that. And I also think that sometimes, not always, but sometimes, neutral eyeshadow palettes are a lot easier to create an eye look with because you don't have a ton of options. I mean, you can have a ton of options, but everything pretty much goes together most often in a neutral palette. You know, like with a rainbow palette, you know, I might struggle with putting like oranges and purples together, but really I'm not going to struggle with putting 2 shades of taupe together, 2 shades of tan together, 2 shades of brown together. You get my meaning here. So I have 20 eyeshadow palettes that I'm going to be showing you guys in today's video. Some of them are just straight up neutral, just neutrals, and that's it. And then some of them are neutrals, but they have pops of color. Now, these pops of color aren't like woo, wow, woo necessarily. However, they're very beautiful, very soft. And what I think is great about those palettes is that if you are someone who is a little intimidated by color, but you kind of want to play around with it a little bit, these types of palettes are perfect for you because you can kind of like dip your toe into the color pool, but not go overly too, I don't know, crazy in that regard. You know, it's not going to be intimidating or overwhelming. I think, you know, if you're just kind of not real sure, these kind of palettes are perfect for you. So I did not rank these. There's no way I was going to rank my neutral palettes. I thought, no, because a lot of them I love equally as much as the next one. Some of them maybe aren't my favorites, but all of these palettes, I love them so much. So no, they're not ranked. I'm just going to show them to you and I'm going to chat about them a little bit and try to move on to the next so that we're not here for the entire week. Okay, because all of us have more important things to do, right? Right. Okay, so the first one I'm going to show you, this is the Going Coconuts palette from Colourpop, and this is a beautiful neutral palette, 9 pans. We have the earthy tones, like I said, kind of constitutes a neutral palette. But the thing I love about this palette is the 3 shimmers in the center here. They are gorgeous. They are vibrant. Yes, they're not bright purple or blue or green, but they look so beautiful on the lid. I love the shimmers in this palette, and I really like the mattes too. And we have some deepening options. We have some lighter shades. So you can create a beautiful look with this palette, beautiful neutral look, not boring. The next palette is the That's Taupe from Colourpop, and this is such a beautiful 9-pan Colourpop palette. Look at how pretty that is. This shimmer right here, I dare someone to tell me that that is not a vibrant shimmer, because it is. I mean, it says a statement all on its own, I believe. And the mattes in here are really nice. They blend out really beautifully. This palette is really nice if you're in a hurry, because you can create a beautiful look pretty quickly with this baby. You know, there's not a lot of guesswork here. You're not going to sit here for 20 minutes trying to figure out how to put a look together. Now, I don't know that you're going to get a lot of diverse looks with this, with the monochromatic palette, but I love it. I love the quality. I love having this palette. And then, of course, if you have been watching my channel for any length of time, you're going to know what I'm going to show you next. This is the Stone Cold Fox palette from Colourpop. And ooh, this is my favorite neutral palette. I mean, look how beautiful this is. There are so many different options in here. And I've talked about this palette until everybody probably wants to get up from the room and run screaming out the door. So I'm gonna, you know, just kind of barely touch on this one. And even though you might have some repeating shades, the textures are different, which I really like about this palette. Beautiful, cool toned, amazing. I love it. Then I have two Zoeva palettes. This is the Cocoa Blend, and I love this. It's gorgeous. We have some deeper neutral options in this palette, which I really appreciate. I love Zoeva's shimmer formula. It's very nice for mature lids. I think it's nice for any lid, but because my eyelids are a little bit more mature, I am 47, these are just perfect. You know, they don't emphasize texture. My eyelids maybe are a little wrinkly than they used to be, and you can't really like see that when you apply these shimmers. The mattes are beautiful. I love the color story. It does have some kind of mixture of like cool and warm tones, which I know not everybody likes, but I don't mind that at all. I like to mix warm and cool together. You know, I'm living on the wild side. But yeah, this is a lovely palette. Zoeva makes beautiful, high quality palettes. The next Zoeva palette is the Basic Moment, and this is so pretty. What I like about this palette are the shimmers. I like the mattes too, but the shimmers are so nice. They're very soft and classy and elegant looking, and I really like to create looks with this palette. Very soft. There's not a lot of depth to this palette. I mean, this shade here is about the darkest you're gonna get, obviously. I think it's, you know, deep enough, but I know some people like deeper than that. So I wouldn't go into this palette thinking you're gonna have like really deep, vampy neutral. This is more soft, elegant, and classy neutral, and I love this palette. The next palette is the Dino Cosmetics Venus palette, and I got this in a BoxyCharm, and I've used this once. I need to use this again. The thing that really surprised me about this palette is that the shimmers in here, I mean, even though they look sparkly in the pan, they are super sparkly on the lid. They are gorgeous. Oh, and I used this palette, I don't know, maybe a couple of months ago, and I posted pictures of my look on Instagram, and so many people said such lovely things to me about how sparkly my eyelids looked. Now, the arrangement of the shades, some people don't like how these palettes are put together. You know, they want them in rows and concise, you know. But I like this. I think it's fun. I mean, there might be some wasted space here, but you know what? There's a lot of wasted space in my head too, so I feel kind of a kinship with this little palette. The next palette I'm going to show you is one of my absolute favorites. This is the Soft and Sultry from Milani. And I actually created a look with this palette for my wedding in August of 2020. And I loved the look I created because you have a lot of different options in this palette. Yes, they're similar options, but they're different. We have deeper shades, lighter shades. The shimmers in here are so pretty, kind of similar to the Zoeva Basic Moment shimmers, I would say. Just very soft, very classy, very elegant looking. I think that they did stop making this palette, which I don't get that because this is one of Milani's best palettes. I know they kind of like made those gilded palettes. Not real impressed with those. I have never seen anybody really say anything good about those palettes, but I've heard so many people rave about this, and so then they discontinue this one. Weird. Beautiful, cool toned, in my opinion, cool tone palette. I know some people think this is warm toned, but on my eyelids it pulls very cool, and I will always have very special memories of this palette because, like I said, I wore it to my wedding. The next palette is the Berry M Nude and Neutral palette. Now this was sent to me from my beautiful friend Linda off Instagram. She lives in Sweden, and she and I were chatting, I think on Instagram, like in maybe DMing each other. And I told her that I had never tried this brand, and she said, oh, we have to remedy that for you. So she sent me this palette, and I have used this in a video, a few videos back. You can look for that on my channel. But this is so beautiful because it's got such richness to it. Chocolatey, caramely, even these kind of reddish tones in here. I mean, beautiful. So you can't tell me that neutrals aren't sexy because I think this is one of the sexiest palettes I own in my collection. Then we have the BH Cosmetics Glam Reflection Rosé Palette. And the front of this looks like it's been through the war. I just kind of bang it around in my drawer. Actually, now it's up on a bookshelf, so hopefully it doesn't get any worse than what it is now. Beautiful neutral color story. Very nice, very classy shades, very easy to blend, very easy to put a look together with this palette. I've only used this twice and I really liked it. I need to use it some more. Now, I don't think this is BH Cosmetics' best palette ever. I don't, but it's very nice and it's very affordable. I'm pretty sure this is still available on the BH Cosmetics website. If not, I did see this, I don't know, maybe a couple of months ago at Marshall's, I believe, or was it TJ? No, it was Marshall's, and it was like, I don't know, $5 or $6. And I think that's a great deal for this palette. Beautiful neutral shades, blend like a dream, shimmers, mattes, wonderful. Then we have the Tarte Tartlet in Bloom palette, and oh, I love this palette. This is probably in my top 3 neutral palettes, I would say. I love the packaging, and I love how it smells. It's kind of like a mixture of chocolate and vanilla. I know some people say chocolate, some people say vanilla. What I think it smells like is a cup of hot cocoa with marshmallows melting on the top of it. And to me, this is just the epitome of a classy eyeshadow palette. The shimmers and the mattes are beautiful. The blendability is amazing. The quality is just, I love it. And the shimmers are so lovely. That's the thing I love about neutral palettes is the shimmers are so damn pretty. I mean, they really are. And this is stunning. I love this little palette. I haven't used this in a really long time. Now I'm smelling it and I'm trying to decide, do I want to eat it or use it? Then we have the Urban Decay Naked Honey palette. And I actually have shades from this palette on my eyelids today. I've used this palette, I think this is like my 5th time using it. And oh, I love it. I don't know why this is the only Urban Decay palette that I own, because the quality of this makes me want to go onto their website and order all of their palettes, because this is so beautiful. The mattes blend themselves. The shimmers are so vibrant and so beautiful. I have this gold shade on my lids today, and I put that on and I was just like, oh yes, I just love all of the shades in here, all of them. And you know, at first I wasn't really sure if this would be considered a neutral palette, but I think that it is. I think golds and, like, you know, obviously browns and mustards would be considered more of a neutral palette in this layout. And you know what? I actually could have pulled this out and put it into my grungy palette collection video, right? I think I could have done that because this has got some grunge in it. But man, this is beautiful. If you don't have this and you're wanting like a really good honey, mustard, brown, goldish color story, this palette needs to belong to you. Now, to round out just the neutral palettes that don't have the pops of color in them, I'm going to show you the Flutterbye from Colourpop. Now, this does not have taupes or browns or tans or creams or khakis or anything. It has mauves, but toned down mauve. So to me, this is a neutral palette. Now, the shades in here, oh, they are so gorgeous. I actually used this for my daughter's wedding, created a look with this for her wedding, and I had a dress on that was this color right here. And I just felt so beautiful with these shades on my lid. I really did. This shade here, although it's close to a pressed glitter, it's not really. It's just kind of a really glittery shimmer. Gorgeous. The quality of this palette is so wonderful. I just love it. I love the packaging. I love the color story. I don't think there is anything boring about this palette. It's very romantic and soft and kind of sexy too. So yeah, I love the Flutterbye. I think this is a perfect neutral palette. Now I'm going to show you some neutral palettes that have some pops of color, but I would say some tamer, more toned down pops of color. This is the Opalescent Palette from BH Cosmetics. The only thing that I don't love about it is that the pan sizes are kind of small. I mean, they're big enough you can get a brush in there, of course, but I don't know. I like pans to be a little larger than this. It's just a quirk that I have. We have a lot of neutral options, obviously, but we have some really pretty soft, tamer pops of color. Purple, lavender, pink, kind of a lavenderish pink, this kind of peachy shade here. So like I said, if you're liking neutral shadows and you want to maybe experiment with some color, this would be perfect for you because we have some colors in here, but they're not like, oh, that's too bright, that's too much, I can't handle that. I think you can handle this, I really do. Maybe not BH Cosmetics' best palette, but it's still very nice in its own right, and I love having it. Then we have the I Heart Revolution Tasty Coffee Palette. I love the packaging of this palette. It's so fun. And this is such a beautiful color story. And you do have some, you know, kind of tame pops of color in here. Lavender, kind of a burgundy mauve, pink, light pink. So, you know, you can experiment with the colors get used to using more colorful shadows, but also have the neutral base to kind of build off of. The mattes blend really nicely. The shimmers in here, I would say, are a little flakier. They kind of need maybe a little bit of finesse to put them on the lid, but once you get them on the lid, they are gorgeous, especially this lavender one and this pink one, these two right here. They're gorgeous. And you cannot beat the packaging, especially if you love coffee, which I do. Then we have the Rude Cosmetics Au Naturel palette. And this is kind of similar, I would say, to the BH Cosmetics Opalescent palette in terms of its pops of color, because we have like the lavenders and the pinks in here. The thing that I love about this palette is you do have some deeper options on this side of the palette, kind of some darker browns. This one's like pretty close to a black. It's like a brownish black. And Rude Cosmetics makes beautiful eyeshadows. The quality is very nice. Blendability is great. The shimmers in here are so pretty. And I think this is just a really nice neutral palette with softer pops of color for those of you that don't want to go too crazy with color, but yet want to experiment a little bit. This palette is perfect for that. Then we have the IBY Beauty Desert Vibes palette. And I got this in an Ipsy several months ago. And when I first got it, I was like, yeah, it's pretty, but I pretty much have that color story elsewhere. But I thought, no, try it, because you've never tried this brand before. And I loved it. The shimmers are so beautiful. I think out of the mattes and the shimmers in an IBY palette, I would say the shimmers are where it's at. They are just so beautiful and vibrant and pretty. I just love them. And you have this fun pop of blue in here. So yeah, again, neutral, pop of blue, can't go wrong. Beautiful formula. Love this palette. Then I have the IBY Beauty Enlighten palette, and I have used this on my channel before. I used this to create a look for a Warrior Queens challenge. Lorraine Johnson Coleman, she leads that group on Instagram. And I just felt like this was the perfect palette to mimic the color story of the image that I chose for that look. Now, if you look at this, you're going to see this bright pink. Now that's not neutral. And I don't know that you could really consider these neutral, but they're calmer than this, of course. And I just think, like, if you looked at this compared to like a rainbow palette, these are just calmer. They're tamer than like the bright purples and blues and greens and whatnot that you would find in a rainbow palette. And obviously these two rows up here are pretty neutral. So this is perfect for those of you, like I keep saying, that want to have a neutral palette but play with color. This is gorgeous. The shimmers in here, especially, let's see, this one here, that one, it's like a greenish bluish mix. It's so pretty. I really am liking this brand, and I think I'm gonna have to get some more from this brand. Very affordable palettes and beautiful shimmers. This next palette that I'm gonna show you, you might not agree with me that it's a neutral palette, but let's look at it and we'll discuss. This is the NYX Ultimate Utopia palette. And before you start saying, Erica, that is not neutral, stop yourself for just a moment and let's look at it. There are a lot of neutral options in here. And I think that this is like the next step. Like, we're graduating through the, neutral palettes with pops of color. And this is like, you're almost to the point where you're gonna pull out a rainbow palette, but you're not quite there yet. This is gonna get you there. So we have this beautiful chartreuse shimmer, coppery gold, this beautiful kind of purpley blue, this kind of grayish blue. And yes, there are some, colorful mattes in here too, but they're kind of muted, I would say, kind of toned down. So to me, this is neutral with beautiful pops of color. I love this palette. I think this is the only NYX palette that I have. I did have another one that I decluttered that I was like, no. And I was so impressed by this. I've seen several creators use this on their channel. They love this palette. I love this palette too. I've actually used this early on my channel. I told you guys all about my kids' broken bones, my broken bones, and I used this palette for that video. That was really fun. I love to pull this out and use it. I haven't in a while, but every time I look at it, I just want to pull it out and use it because it's just amazing. Now I have two final palettes, and again, you might argue that these aren't really neutral. These are neutral in my mind, but they're got a richness to them, a deepness to them, kind of an edge to them. So this is the Chocolates from Juvia's Place, and it's brown. So to me, it's neutral because that's kind of what signifies a neutral palette to me. It's just kind of earthy tones. But look how deep and rich and chocolatey, I mean, the name is perfect for this color story, that this little palette is. It is so beautiful and it's got such great quality. The only thing that I don't love about this palette is these two shades right here, because they're too similar. They don't look really any different on my lid than the other one does, which I don't kind of get that. What I really would have liked is that they had put like this shade in a shimmer in this palette, but they didn't. Nobody asked me, nobody cared what I thought. And I'm sure this palette sells just fine the way it is. And I love it just the way it is. Just wish this shade was, never mind, stop. Stop it, just show the palette and get on with it. Love it. Beautiful, amazing. Just love having like deeper neutral options in my collection. And then the very last palette, this is the Wild Child from Colourpop. Similar to the Chocolates from Juvia's Place, but There's a little bit more options in here, kind of, I guess. Yeah, a little bit more options. Deep, rich, kind of cinnamony, chocolatey, just gorgeous. I love this palette. The shimmers in here, the mattes, beautiful Colourpop palette, beautiful richness and depth to this. I just love using it. And look how cute the packaging is. It's a little giraffe. I love it. All right, so those were my favorite 20 neutral eyeshadow palettes that I have in my collection. And I have to say, I don't think any of those are boring. They may not be as like exciting or over the top as some of the colorful palettes that are available for people to purchase on the market, but I still think that they have their place in the makeup world, and I think they're beautiful. And I think too, it's fun if you are just trying to get into using color and you're not real sure how you feel about it, that you have those options, that you have neutral options, but with pops of color or just straight up neutral. I think it's good for all of us to have things available to us that we love and that we prefer. And I think it's fun that there's just preferences in the world, that we're not all the same. I mean, how boring. That's what would be boring if we were all the same and we all picked the same eyeshadow palettes. Ugh. I would love to know if you guys have any of these palettes, what you think of the palettes, if you love them, if you don't love them. And Michelle, I hope that you really enjoyed seeing my neutral eyeshadow palettes. And I would love for you and I to chat again in the comment section of this video about neutral eyeshadows. I can't wait. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your busy day or evening to sit down and watch my video. It always means the world to me. If you have subscribed or you would like to subscribe, do not forget to hit the notification bell. That way you're aware of all of my future uploads. I cannot wait to see you guys again in my next video, but in the meantime, please take care of yourself, be well, safe, happy, and I hope to see you guys again very soon. Thanks again, you guys. Take care. Bye.
Drop it.